everybody, welcome back. And today I have got a review for you, and I know this palette has been reviewed to death, but I wanted to share my perspective on the Too Faced Sweet Peach palette as a collector, as somebody who really enjoys eyeshadows, and just as a, you know, just to throw in my 2 cents. So I've had the palette for about a month now, and I have used it a bunch. I took it to New York with me to travel with, to really test it out, and I've formed some coherent thoughts on it that I wanted to share with you. So this is not a first impressions, this is me actually using the palette, putting it to the test. So first of all, let's talk about the packaging. I think the packaging is going to be really cutesy for some people. For me, it's right there with the chocolate bar palettes, to where it's cute but kitschy and it's not overly cute. I think the packaging on it is really beautiful. I like that it's in a tin. I do like the peach smell on it. It's really nice. You get a nice mirror in here, and then you get the little lookbook that comes with several looks. Now I will say in this one, as opposed to having the 16 shades and having the 2 highlight shades be larger, which I love that concept. I think that's one of the best things about the chocolate bar palettes. They did decide to just throw in 2 extra shades. I will say that I feel like they would have been better served doing 2 highlight shades, because just having a bigger pans of 2 of the highlight shades, because I think just for somebody who's going to use this palette a lot, it would have been more helpful. And some of these deeper shades I'm not a fan of. So in my opinion, I really wish they would have made a bigger pan of white peach and a bigger pan of nectar, because those are the two shades that I reach for every single time I do a look. But overall, you get 18 shades. I think it is a beautiful array of colors. As far as the whole controversy with it being not enough peach shades, I mean, yeah, you get 2 peach shades in here. I don't know. I'm not really one that needs a ton of peach shades, so I really look at this more as just a beautiful, warm, neutral palette, which you guys know I love, with some fun pops of color. But I am going to do swatches of all of the colors just so you can see them and make up your mind in general. And I know a lot of people like to do brush swatches. I don't know. Personally, I feel like brush swatches on your skin are not going to be any more indicative of how a shadow is actually going to perform. I feel like you kind of have to just get it on your eye to make it, to really see how it's going to perform. Are you going to foil it? Are you going to do this? Are you going to do that? What brush are you going to use it with? So I'm just going to do finger swatches. But yeah, just so you can see them and see how they are performing in live swatches, and make your decision from there. So I'm going to cut to that and we'll be right back. All right guys, I'm just going to go by rows of 3 just so it's easier to see them. So the first shade we have is White Peach, Nectar, and this is Peaches and Cream. So those are what they look like. So we've got Peaches and Cream, White Nectar. Oh, I'm sorry. No, which one is that one? Nectar is this one right here, and White Peach. Now these mattes, I will say, they do seem a little bit chalky, but I do find that they perform really well on the eye. I do like White Nectar as a base all over. I do use Peaches and Cream. I can't remember the name as a transition. It makes a really pretty transition shade on me. As you can see, it is a little bit deeper than my natural skin tone. I do say that I do love Nectar. I think it is a beautiful, just warm goldeny shade, and I like using that one on my inner corner no matter what look I'm doing. I feel like it just is universally flattering as an inner corner highlight and right above the brow. All right, the next row we have is this one right here. So this is the shade Luscious, this is the shade Cobbler, and this is the shade Georgia. So this is what they look like. Again, I love this row as well. Luscious is beautiful. It's probably one of my favorites in the palette. It's just that gorgeous rose gold champagne type of look to it. Cobbler is beautiful. It's less metallic and definitely more of a satin finish. It is really beautiful on the lid. And in the transition, I really enjoy that if you want a little bit deeper of a transition. And then, what was the last one? Georgia. I can't remember the names, guys. Georgia, I also love using as a soft transition shade, kind of my first transition. So with Georgia and with Peaches and Cream, these shades, I'm going to build this up a little bit so you can see it. Since they're just slightly deeper than my skin tone, I like to lay these down over my base and create that kind of soft transition, and then go in with a deeper shade like Cobbler. So these are beautiful, and I've got to say Luscious is probably one of my favorite shades in the palette. So again, I really enjoy this row, and I've used them a bunch. The next row we have is Just Peachy, Candied Peach, and Caramelized. So Just Peachy is a really pretty kind of shimmery, satiny, kind of metallic shade with that gold turn to it. Candied Peach is a matte with sparkles in it, which I do not like those textures. Those are generally not my favorite. I would have just preferred it being a matte. And then Caramelized is a beautiful, like, metallic-y bronze, like cool bronze. So Just Peachy is gorgeous. Love it. I love that kind of tone. You can see there is a little bit of powderiness to it, but guys, again, my thoughts on that is powdery does not equal bad. So there is Candied Peach. Again, it's a beautiful matte peach shade. I just wish it didn't have the sparkles in it, because I just, when it comes to mattes with sparkles in them, I just prefer they not be in a palette. They're just not my favorite type of texture. And then this last one, which again is called Caramelized, is a beautiful, just deep bronzy shade. And then Caramelized again is just a beautiful, deep, metallic-y bronzy shade. I love putting this one on the outer portion of the lid and putting Luscious on the inner portion of the lid, and it just creates such a gorgeous look. Beautiful, beautiful shade. Really like that one. All right, the next shades we have are Bless Her Heart, which is kind of an olivey green, Bellini, which again is another beautiful kind of iridescent shade, and Puree, which is a great matte. So we've got Bless Her Heart, which is that kind of khaki green. Now this one does need a little bit of working with. It's kind of along the lines of Caramelized and Luscious in terms of texture, in that metallic texture, but it doesn't quite have as much pigment to hold it together. I do find that if you put this on the lid though, it does wear really beautifully. And I did wear that on kind of the outer portion of my lid one night when I was in New York, and I really liked the look. And then we have Bellini, which is again another beautiful shade. It's got that kind of iridescence to it, almost like kind of a gold turn to it, just like Peachy does, or Just Peachy. It's just going to be a little bit more of an orangey tone, where Just Peachy is going to be more pink, if that makes sense. So again, really, really pretty. Not the most pigmented shadow in the bunch, but you can work with it, and it does look beautiful on the eye. And then you have Puree, which I love Puree. Again, some of these don't swatch very well, but on the eye, it blends out beautifully as a transition. I used this in almost every look that I've created with this palette. So again, don't judge it by its swatch, because it does blend out beautifully, and it's very buildable. So I really, really enjoy this shade as well. I'm glad they threw this one in there. All right, the next shades we have are Tempting, which is kind of a dark blackened green. We have Peach Pit, which is kind of a brownish burgundy deep purple. And then we have Summer Yum, which is a beautiful, this reminds me of the peanut butter and jelly shade. So the first one is Tempting, which I do not like at all. It seems really pigmented. It seems really nice. I kind of used it. It's like a blackened green, or greenish black, but this does not blend out for anything. It is so frustrating to work with on the eye, at least in my experience. So this shade I just kind of stay away from. Peach Pit is one of the few that I have not used on my eye, but it is beautiful. Again, you're gonna see a lot of powdery fallout from that, but just be aware. I don't think that negates the fact that the shadow is very beautiful. And again, I haven't used this one on the eye, but it reminds me of Caramelized and Luscious in the texture, where it's got that beautiful texture to it. And it's got just a gorgeous kind of metallic sheen. Just a little bit more subdued than the lighter ones in the palette. And then we have Summer Yum, which again reminds me of that peanut butter and jelly shade. Again, it's very much like Puree. So again, it reminds me of that peanut butter and jelly shade that you find in the semi-sweet and in the peanut butter and jelly palette. It's very beautiful. Again, like Puree, don't judge it by its swatch. It seems a little inconsistent and patchy, but it's really not. It blends out beautifully. This is a gorgeous shade to put in your crease, in your transition, and I really, really like this matte as well. So this is another favorite of mine. Finally, let's talk about the last shade, or last row in the palette. We have got the shade Charmed, I'm Sure, Delectable, and Talk Derby to Me, and those are what they look like. So Charmed, I'm Sure is like a satiny kind of mid-tone, deep brown. I do like this in the crease since there isn't really a deeper crease color. So that one does really work well in the outer V and the deepest portion of the crease. I've got to say for Delectable, I'm really not impressed with this shade at all. And I'm not impressed with Talk Derby to me. I don't know. I just find them to be patchy. I don't know if it's mine. Let's try that again. See if I can build these up. I don't know. I just find them, I don't know if it's my palette or what, but I just find them to be chalky and inconsistent and just not, I don't know. I don't know why they perform like that, but they're just really not very impressive at all. So those are all of the swatches in the Sweet Peach palette. All right, everybody, so those are the swatches for the Too Faced Sweet Peach palette. So again, there are shades in here that I absolutely love, and there are shades that I just feel like were just absolutely unnecessary in this palette. Talk Derby to me, Delectable and Tempting. I wish they would have thrown those out. I wish they would have made White Peach a two-panner, Nectar a two-panner, and then brought in one more like deep dark transition matte shade. So, you know, overall I think it's a really good palette. There are some definite duds in here, but there's some overall just gorgeous shadows in here. So I don't think this is a palette that is necessarily worth the hype. I think it is a good solid palette that has a couple of duds in it, and I don't think it's necessary for everybody. If you're a collector, if you're somebody who enjoys warm eyeshadows, are you going to enjoy this palette? Yeah, I think so. I've really enjoyed it. If you're somebody, again, who this is the one palette that you're going to go out and buy and use every single day, and this is going to be your end-all be-all palette, do I think this is it? I really don't. If you want to get something in this line, get a chocolate bar palette. Get the semi-sweet or the original, which is like one of my favorites. But yeah, I hope this was helpful for you guys. Again, I know there's an oversaturation of reviews on this palette, but you know, I just wanted to share my thoughts after using this palette for several weeks to really let you know what I liked about this palette and what I didn't, and if it was worth the hype. So in my opinion, it's a good palette, but it is not worth the hype. But guys, thank you so much for hanging out and talking about makeup with me. I hope you found this helpful. Let me know what you think about this palette down below, because I would love to hear your opinions and hear your thoughts on it. As always, I love interacting with you guys. But thank you so much for taking the time to hang out and talk about makeup with me. I hope you guys have an amazing day. Have a rockin' week, and I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.